They were coming to wipe us out. The Galactic Council convened on their flagship Celestial Citadel to sign our death warrant. Commander Alara, the Council's ruthless enforcer, laid out humanity's crimes in chilling detail. Our technological advances threatened their power. Our drive to explore and expand defied their control. Left unchecked, we would eclipse them in mere decades. And so, with a unanimous vote and solemn nods, they set in motion a plan to exterminate us. But humanity would not submit to slaughter, not without a fight. On Earth, Jerry Dixon and his team of brilliant physicists unlocked the secret of stable wormholes. Near instantaneous travel between galaxies, a discovery that could shatter the Council's iron grip on the cosmos. News of the breakthrough spread like wildfire. Hope kindled in the hearts of all humans. A chance to break free, to touch the stars on our own terms. The Council struck first. Alara infiltrated Dixon's lab, sabotaging his work, destroying years of research. But her act of destruction only hardened humanity's resolve. Dixon launched his own investigation, uncovering a vast conspiracy. The Council sabotaging human progress, denying our colonies vital resources, portraying us as primitive savages to justify our oppression. The depth of their betrayal, the depravity of their lies, ignited a righteous fury in the human soul. Samantha Perkins, our diplomat on the Citadel, risked everything to gather proof of the Council's treachery. Smuggled data chips carried a spark of hope along with damning evidence. Decrypt them, and the Council's crimes against humanity would be laid bare for the galaxy to witness. But such evidence required a rallying cry, a leader to forge humanity into a force capable of shattering the Council's millennium-long hegemony. Jeremiah Novak, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, would be that leader. A grizzled veteran who saw the truth, bowing to the Council meant slow death for humanity. He would lead us to victory or a glorious end. The lines were drawn. Titanic fleets mustered in secret. Wormhole generators hummed with eldritch energies. The core worlds buzzed with rumors of impending calamity. The stage was set for the defining struggle of human history. We would fight for our right to live, to explore, to stake our claim amongst the stars. And if the Galactic Council thought they could stop us, they would soon learn the depths of their folly and the magnitude of humanity's fury. The Galactic Council's propaganda machine roared to life, spewing a deluge of lies and half-truths across the cosmos. Grainy video clips, doctored to show human soldiers gunning down innocent civilians, played on an endless loop in spaceport terminals from Arcturus to Zeta Reticuli. Pundits on the Holocaust networks denounced humanity's unprovoked aggression and insatiable lust for conquest. On Zephyrus, smoke still curled from the rubble of the ruined habitats. Emergency crews sifted through the debris, pulling mangled bodies from the twisted wreckage. Samantha Perkins picked her way through the devastation, a stubborn persistence etched on her face. She had seen the intelligence reports, the intercepted communiques that pointed to the Shadow's involvement. This was no terrorist attack. It was a false flag operation, designed to turn the galaxy against Earth. A glint of metal caught Samantha's eye. She knelt, brushing aside a chunk of ferrocrete to reveal a scrap of charred polymer, the remains of a thermal detonator casing, stamped with the crest of the Shadows. She pocketed the evidence, her suspicions confirmed. As she made her way back to her shuttle, a hulking figure emerged from the Shadows. A Kronax, his craggy features twisted into a scowl. Samantha tensed, reaching for her sidearm, but the Kronax raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "Raxor Thrax," he growled, his voice like gravel. "I have information you need." Samantha eyed him warily. "And what's that?" "The truth about who really attacked this colony. I know because I was there. The Shadows hired me to lead the strike team." Samantha's eyes widened. "You're admitting to being part of this atrocity?" Thrax shook his head. "I thought I was fighting for a just cause, but I see now that the Council's been lying to us all. I'll testify, tell the whole galaxy what really happened here. But I need protection. The Shadows don't take kindly to loose ends." Samantha considered for a moment, then nodded. "Come with me. We'll keep you safe." As Samantha's shuttle lifted off, carrying her and Thrax towards a rendezvous with Jeremiah Dixon, Commander Ilara stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the holographic display of her latest orders from the Council. The blood drained from her face as she read the target details. A human medical research station studying treatments for Rigelian pox. There were over 1,000 civilians aboard, scientists and their families, and the Council wanted her to destroy it. Alara clenched her fists, her mind racing. For years, she had been a loyal servant of the Council, unquestioning in her obedience. But this was too far. She couldn't be party to the slaughter of innocents, no matter what the Council claimed about the station being a front for bioweapons research. She made her decision in an instant. Spinning on her heel, she marched to the escape pod bay, shouldering past startled crewmen. As alarms began to blare, Alara sealed herself into a pod and punched the emergency launch button. The pod blasted free of the ship, hurtling into the void. Alara input coordinates with trembling fingers, the last known location of Jerry Dixon's research outpost. She had to warn him. On Earth, Supreme Commander Novak stood before the hastily assembled leaders of the free races, a grim expression on his face. "The Council has made their intentions clear," he said, his voice ringing through the auditorium. "They mean to wipe us out, to exterminate humanity and any who stand with us. We cannot let that happen." He turned to the figure standing at his side, a statuesque woman clad in iridescent armor, a flowing mane of golden hair cascading over her shoulders. Queen Freya of the Valkyries has pledged her warriors to our cause. With their strength added to ours, we have a chance to strike back against the Council, to shatter their hold on the galaxy. Freya raised her fist, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. "For too long, the Council has ground us under their heel. No more. We will fight alongside humanity, and together we will win our freedom." A roar of approval went up from the assembled leaders, a sound to shake the stars. The die was cast. The battle for the fate of the stars had begun. In the grand chamber of the Celestial Citadel, the Council members shifted uneasily in their seats as Overlord Zahn smacked his palm against the podium. "Humanity must be brought to heel," he bellowed, spittle flying from his lips. "They defy our rule, flout our laws, and now they spread lies about our atrocities. We must act now, before their insidious influence spreads further." "And what would you have us do, Overlord?" a slender Arcturian counselor asked, his brow furrowed. "Commit genocide? Rain destruction upon Earth and her colonies?" "If that's what it takes to maintain order, then yes," Zahn snapped. "We cannot show weakness, not now." "But what if the humans are telling the truth?" another counselor interjected, a note of doubt in her voice. "What if our operatives really are working to subvert them, to sabotage their efforts? Shouldn't we at least investigate these claims?" Zaon's eyes narrowed. "You would take the word of a few upstart primates over the wisdom of this council, over our divine right to rule?" The chamber fell silent, the weight of the moment settling like a pall over the assembled counselors. The fate of trillions hung in the balance. With a trembling hand, the chief counselor called for a vote. In that moment, the future of the galaxy teetered on a knife's edge, ready to plunge into the abyss of total war, or to step back from the brink into an uncertain new age. The seconds ticked by, each one an eternity. And then, the chamber erupted into chaos as the final vote was tallied. Overlord Zahn's face twisted into a triumphant sneer as he announced the result. "By decree of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby declared a rogue species, subject to immediate military intervention." Samantha Perkins, watching the proceedings from a hidden alcove, felt her stomach lurch. She tapped her wrist communicator, her voice barely above a whisper. "Commander Novak, it's done. They've made their move." Novak's gruff reply crackled through the device. "Understood. Initiating Operation Thunderbolt." Across human space, hidden shipyards hummed to life. Sleek warships, their hulls gleaming with experimental alloys, emerged from camouflaged docks. On the bridge of the flagship Defiance, Novak surveyed the holographic display of Earth's defenders. "All ships, this is Supreme Commander Novak. The Council has shown its true colors. Our time has come. Execute Deployment Plan Sigma 9. As the human fleet took up defensive positions around key colonies, the Council's armada began its ponderous advance. But Novak had no intention of fighting a purely defensive war. Perkins, Thrax, you have a go for Operation Looking Glass. Get to the Citadel and blow this conspiracy wide open. Samantha nodded to her unlikely ally, the hulking Kronax mercenary. Ready for this? Thrax's gravelly laugh rumbled through the cramped confines of their stealth shuttle. Born ready, human. Let's make the Council choke on their lies. Their vessel slipped away from the Citadel, weaving through the massive fleet gathering for war. Meanwhile, on a remote asteroid base, Jerry Dixon and the newly defected Commander Alara raced against time. Holograms flickered around them, equations scrolling faster than the eye could follow. If we can overload their entire network simultaneously, Dixon muttered, the resulting singularity cascade would cripple their fleet, Alara finished. It's brilliant, but we'd need access to their primary hub. Dixon's eyes gleamed. Leave that to me. I didn't spend years reverse engineering their tech for nothing. Across the galaxy on Valhalla, Queen Freya raised her shimmering battle axe high. Sisters, the hour is upon us. Humanity stands against tyranny, and we shall stand with them. A thunderous cheer went up from the assembled Valkyrie host. Freya vaulted onto her war griffin, its razor-sharp beak glinting in the twin suns. To the Council Depot, we strike for freedom. The Valkyrie's assault was swift and merciless. Council guards fell before their onslaught, and within hours the depot's vast stockpiles were secured. As Freya's warriors loaded vital supplies onto their ships, the Queen activated a long-range transmitter. Novak, the Council's larder is ours, and their security logs. You're going to want to see this. But even as allies rallied to humanity's banner, danger closed in on their most vital mission. Samantha and Thrax's shuttle shuddered as a tractor beam locked on. Overlord Zahn's flagship, Thrax growled. They've found us. Samantha's fingers flew over the controls, desperately seeking an escape vector. There's no way out. We have to... The ship rocked with weapons fire. Thrax grabbed Samantha's arm, shoving her towards the escape pod. The data, the truth. It has to get out at any expense. Understanding dawned in Samantha's eyes. Thrax, no! But the Kronax was already sealing her into the pod. It's been an honor, human. Now go. Make it count. The last thing Samantha saw before the pod jettisoned was Thrax turning to face the boarding party, a feral grin on his craggy face. Alarms blared throughout the Citadel as Samantha's message pierced their communications blackout. On countless worlds, beings of all species watched in horror as the Council's crimes were laid bare. In the war room aboard the Defiance, Novak allowed himself a grim smile. And now the real fight begins. Begins, Novak said, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. The wormhole weapons deployment sent shockwaves through the fabric of spacetime. Across the galaxy, Council ships found themselves suddenly adrift, their engines sputtering and dying as the overloaded singularities tore through subspace. On the bridge of the Defiance, a cheer went up as sensor readings confirmed the success of Dixon's gambit. All ships, this is Supreme Commander Novak. The enemy is crippled. Execute Operation Hammerfall. Earth's fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Council vessels, once invincible behemoths, now drifted helplessly as human warships tore into them with ruthless efficiency. The AI strategists aboard Earth's flagships orchestrated a symphony of destruction, predicting and countering every desperate move the Council commanders attempted. On Kylaris Prime, Colonel Marcus Rain crouched behind a shattered barricade, plasma bolts sizzling overhead. His 501st Division had secured a tenuous foothold on the planet's surface, but wave after wave of Council troops threatened to overwhelm them. "Hold the line!" Rain bellowed, his voice carrying over the din of battle. "Remember New Eden! Remember Zephyrus!" A nearby soldier, her face streaked with grime and blood, hefted a bulky missile launcher onto her shoulder. "Eat this, you Xeno bastards!" The warhead streaked across the battlefield, detonating in a brilliant fireball that consumed an entire platoon of Council shock troops. Rain allowed himself a grim smile. They might be outnumbered, but his people fought with the fury of the betrayed and the righteous. Light years away, Queen Freya's war griffin screeched as it dodged incoming fire, its razor-sharp talons raking across the hull of a Council gunship. The skies above Decora's dilithium mines were thick with combat, Valkyrie warriors weaving through the chaos with preternatural grace. Freya's battle axe crackled with energy as she brought it down on a Council heavy weapons emplacement, cleaving through armor plating without effort. "For Valhalla and Earth," she cried, her voice carrying to every warrior in her host. The Council's defenses crumbled before the Valkyrie's onslaught. Within hours, the vital dilithium mines were secured, dealing a crippling blow to the enemy's war machine. At Zeta 9 Station, Commander Carrie Blackwood gripped the arms of her command chair as another barrage of enemy fire rocked the station. Her small fleet was battered and bloodied, but still they held. "Ma'am, Council dreadnought moving to flank us," her tactical officer reported, fear evident in his voice. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. "Not today. Helm, full power to forward shields. Weapons, target their port nacelles. Fire on my mark." The massive Council warship loomed ever larger on the monitor. Blackwood counted down silently, timing their shot with cold precision. "Mark!" A lance of coherent energy erupted from Zeta 9's main cannon, punching through the dreadnought's weakened shields and tearing into its vulnerable flank. Secondary explosions blossomed along its hull as the mighty vessel began to list. "They're retreating!" The cry went up across the command deck, met with exhausted cheers. Blackwood allowed herself a moment of relief before turning to her communications officer. "Send word to Supreme Commander Novak. Zeta 9 holds." As the battles raged on, Jerry Dixon and Commander Alara made their final preparations aboard the stealth ship Shadow Dancer. The wormhole weapon had proven devastatingly effective, but this next deployment would be their riskiest yet. "You realize," Alara said softly, "if we miscalculate by even a fraction, we could tear a hole in the fabric of space-time large enough to swallow half the galaxy." Dixon nodded grimly. "I know, but it's a risk we have to take. The celestial citadel has to fall." He input the final coordinates, his fingers steady despite the weight of trillions of lives hanging in the balance. With a deep breath, he pressed the activation key. "May the stars have mercy on us all." The Shadow Dancer vanished in a flash of impossible light, hurtling towards the very heart of Council power. The next few moments would determine the fate of the stars. "Galaxy!" The Shadow Dancer materialized in a brilliant flash, its stealth systems momentarily overwhelmed by the sheer energy of the wormhole transit. Jerry Dixon blinked away the after images, his hands flying over the control panel. "We're inside!" Ilara exclaimed, her eyes wide as she took in the sight of the celestial citadel's inner sanctum through the view screen. Dixon nodded grimly. "And they weren't expecting us. Breach teams, go!" Hatches blew open along the Shadow Dancer's hull, disgorging squads of heavily armed operatives. They moved with practiced precision, sweeping through ornate corridors and vast chambers. Alarms blared, but the Council's security forces were in disarray, caught completely off guard by the impossible penetration of their defenses. In the Citadel's command center, Overlord Zahn roared in fury as holographic displays showed the human assault team's inexorable advance. How? How did they breach our shields? Before anyone could respond, the massive doors to the chamber buckled under a barrage of concentrated fire. Dixon himself strode through the smoke, his particle rifle trained on Zahn. "In the name of humanity and its allies, you're under arrest," Dixon declared, his voice cold and unyielding. Zayan's eyes darted around the room, seeking escape, but found only the barrels of human weapons. With a snarl of defeat, he raised his hands. As Dixon's team secured the command center and rounded up the stunned Council regents, Alara's voice crackled over the comm. "Jerry, we've got a problem. The Grand Chancellor isn't here." Dixon's blood ran cold. "What? Where?" A nearby console chirped, displaying a priority transmission. The smug face of Grand Chancellor Viridis filled the screen. "Well played, humans," he sneered, "but this game is nowhere near the end." The transmission cut out abruptly. "Trace that signal," Dixon barked. Ilara's fingers flew over the controls. It's coming from the Iridian homeworld, Hyraka." Dixon's lips pursed. They had dealt the Council a crippling blow, but their most dangerous enemy was still at large. Across the galaxy on Calaris Prime, Colonel Marcus Rain wiped grime from his face as he surveyed the captured Council base. His 501st Division had fought tooth and nail for every inch of ground, but victory was finally theirs. "Sir!" A young lieutenant sprinted up, datapad in hand. "You need to see this." Rain's eyes widened as he scrolled through the classified files. Project code names, resource allocation reports, and finally, schematics for a weapon of unimaginable, destructive power. "The Vril Disruptor," he breathed. "Mother of God!" He keyed his long-range communicator. "This is Colonel Rain to Supreme Commander Novak. Sir, we've uncovered evidence of a Council superweapon. I think we know what Verities is planning." On Decora, the scene was one of carnage and destruction. Queen Freya's Valkyrie warriors fought with desperate ferocity as wave after wave of Council reinforcements threatened to overrun their position at the dilithium mines. Freya herself stood atop a makeshift barricade, her battle axe a blur of motion as she cut down foe after foe. But even her legendary prowess had limits. A plasma bolt slipped past her guard, searing through armor and flesh. The Valkyrie Queen stumbled, her vision swimming. As darkness threatened to claim her, the sky above lit up with weapons fire. A familiar voice boomed over the battlefield. "This is Commander Carrie Blackwood of the Earth Fleet. Council forces, stand down or be destroyed." Freya allowed herself a pained smile as she saw the sleek shapes of human warships descending through the atmosphere. The tide had turned once more. In a hardened bunker deep beneath Hiraka's surface, Grand Chancellor Veritas paced like a caged animal. Holographic displays showed his once mighty empire crumbling before the human onslaught. "Father." Veritas whirled to face the source of the voice, his eyes widening in shock. "Thyler? How?" His son's face was a mask of cold willpower. "It's over. I won't let you destroy any more lives." Veritas lunged for the Vril Disruptor's control panel, but Thyler was faster. A series of precise movements, and the weapon's firing mechanism went dark. "You fool!" Veritas snarled. "Do you realize what you've done?" Thyler met his father's gaze unflinchingly. "I've saved billions of lives, including yours and Mother's." Veritas recoiled as if struck. "Arya, she's..." "Alive," Thyler finished. "No thanks to you. And now you'll answer for everything you've done." As news of the Council's atrocities and Verity's madness spread across the galaxy, system after system erupted in open revolt. The once mighty regime's support base evaporated like mist in the morning sun. Aboard the Defiance, Supreme Commander Novak received an unexpected transmission. The captured Council regents, led by a chastened overlord Zion, were ready to discuss terms of surrender. Novak's eyes narrowed as he considered the implications. The war wasn't over, not while Veritas still drew breath. But for the first time since this conflict began, he allowed himself to feel a glimmer of hope. "Very well," he said at last. "Let's talk." "Very well," Novak said at last. "Let's hear their terms." As the Council Regent's transmission ended, Novak's eyes hardened. "But we're not done yet. All ships, set course for Hiraka. It's time we finish this." The massive Allied fleet surged through hyperspace, emerging above the ancient Iridian homeworld. Hiraka's emerald surface was marred by sprawling citadels and fortress cities, the last bastion of Grand Chancellor Veritas's power. "Multiple Council signatures detected," reported Novak's tactical officer. "They've concentrated everything they have left." Novak nodded grimly. "Deploy the fleet. Commence orbital bombardment of military targets." As Alliance warships engaged the remnants of the Council Armada, Commander Kari Blackwood's voice crackled over the comm. "Supreme Commander, my task force is moving to secure the Southern Hemisphere. We'll draw their fire while the main assault force makes planetfall." On the planet's surface, Colonel Marcus Rain crouched behind the wreckage of a downed dropship. Plasma bolts sizzled overhead as his 501st Division pushed towards the heavily fortified Vril Disruptor facility. "Delta Company, flank left!" Rain barked into his comm. Bravo! Lay down suppressing fire! A nearby explosion showered Rain with debris. He wiped grit from his eyes, revealing a grim-faced soldier at his side. Sir, the man shouted over the din of battle, Council forces are falling back to the secondary perimeter. Rain nodded. We've got them on the run. All units, push forward. As the 501st advanced, a Valkyrie war griffin screeched overhead. Queen Freya herself descended from the skies, her battle axe cleaving through Council defenses with terrifying efficiency. Humans of Earth, Freya's voice boomed across the battlefield. The Valkyries fight at your side this day. Meanwhile, aboard the stealth ship Shadow Dancer, Jerry Dixon studied a holographic schematic of the Vril facility. Beside him, Commander Ilara conferred with a tall, gaunt figure, Thyler, the defector son of Viridis himself. The main control bunker is here, Thyler said, highlighting a section of the map. But first, we need to free my mother. She alone knows how to neutralize the disruptor. Dixon nodded. Lead the way. The strike team moved swiftly through the labyrinthine corridors of the Iridian stronghold. Alarms blared as they fought their way past fanatical Council loyalists. There! Thyler cried, gesturing towards a heavily guarded doorway. That's where they're holding her! Dixon primed a breaching charge. Stand back! The door exploded inward. As the smoke cleared, Dixon's team surged into the chamber. In its center stood a regal figure, her eyes blazing with defiance. Mother, Thyler breathed. Empress Aria's face softened for a moment before hardening once more. We have little time. The kill switch protocols are encoded in the ancient songs of my people. I will guide you, but we must hurry. As they raced towards the disruptor's control center, the comm crackled to life. Queen Freya's voice, strained with exertion, filled their ears. Humans! We have breached the main bunker, but Veritas' guards are many. We cannot hold for long. Dixon exchanged a look with Ilara. Time to end this. They burst into the control room, weapons blazing. Aria moved swiftly to a central console, her fingers dancing across alien controls as she chanted in an ancient tongue. Warning klaxons blared. A computerized voice intoned, Vril disruptor activation sequence aborted. Weapon systems powering down. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room, but their victory was short-lived. Incoming transmission, Ilara reported, her voice tight. It's Veritas. The Grand Chancellor's face appeared on a nearby screen, twisted with rage and madness. You may have stopped the disruptor, but I still have one last gift for humanity. The Terminus virus will... The transmission cut off abruptly. Through the bunker's viewport, they watched as a lone fighter screamed towards a cloaked shuttle trying to flee the planet. Thyler, no! Aria cried, realizing her son's intent. The two craft collided in a silent explosion, briefly illuminating Hirax's skies. Aria's anguished scream echoed through the control room. As the last remnants of Council resistance crumbled, the full weight of victory and its terrible cost settled upon them all. The echoes of battle faded as the last pockets of Council resistance crumbled on Hyraka. Supreme Commander Novak stood on the bridge of the Defiance, surveying holographic displays of the newly liberated systems. Sir, incoming transmission from Earth Central Command, a communications officer reported. Novak nodded, his face etched with exhaustion. Put it through. The hologram flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of Jeremiah Novak, Earth's highest-ranking civilian leader. Congratulations on your victory, Supreme Commander, but our work is far from finished. Agreed, Novak replied. We're already coordinating relief efforts across... It's worse than we thought, Jeremiah cut in. The true extent of the Council's atrocities, entire colonies reduced to ash, billions on the brink of starvation. Novak's teeth clenched. We'll divert all available resources. I'm initiating Operation Lifeline, effective immediately. As the transmission ended, Novak turned to his staff. Get me Colonel Rain on Kylaris Prime. Miles away, Colonel Marcus Rain ducked as plasma fire scorched the air above his head. The 501st Division had encountered unexpected resistance in the planet's northern hemisphere. Delta Company, flank left, Rain barked into his comm. Bravo, I want those gun emplacements neutralized yesterday. A nearby explosion showered him with debris. As the dust settled, a lieutenant materialized at his side, face smeared with grime. Sir, we've intercepted Council communications. They're falling back to fortified positions in the mountains. Rain's eyes narrowed. Not for long. Prep the gunships for a night assault. On Decorah, Queen Freya limped through the ruins of what had once been the planet's capital. Her battle axe, now serving as a makeshift crutch, left gouges in the scorched earth. A human medic approached, medical kit in hand. Your Majesty, please. Your wounds... Freya silenced him with a glare. Not until every civilian is safely evacuated. She gestured towards a group of shell-shocked Decoran refugees. These people have suffered enough under Council rule. We will show them the true meaning of honor. Aboard the stealth cruiser, Shadow Dancer Jerry Dixon pored over schematics of Stygian 7. Beside him, Empress Arya's eyes were haunted as she recounted the Council's most terrifying secret. The antimatter device, it could obliterate entire star systems, she whispered. We called it Ragnarok. Dixon's face hardened. Not if we get there first, he keyed his comm. Alara, plot a course for Stygian 7, maximum stealth protocols. As the Shadow Dancer slipped into hyperspace, Commander Carrie Blackwood's fleet secured vital supply lines across the newly liberated sectors. Her flagship's sensors pinged, detecting an anomalous energy signature. Analysis? She demanded. Her science officer's voice was grim. It matches Council warp signatures, ma'am. A large contingent heading into uncharted space. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. The Loyalists are regrouping. Prep a recon team. Whatever they're planning, we need to know. On Earth, crowds filled the streets of every major city. Cheers of victory gave way to stunned silence as the scope of galactic devastation became clear. Jeremiah Novak's voice echoed from countless view screens. Citizens of Earth, we face our greatest challenge yet. The Great Reconstruction begins now. Every hand, every mind, every resource, all must be devoted to healing the wounds inflicted upon our galaxy. As the speech concluded, Novak turned to his advisors. We need to move quickly. Prepare the draft resolution for the Concord of Civilization. It's time to forge a new galactic order from the ashes of the old. Across liberated space, the wheels of reconstruction began to turn. But in the shadows, on forgotten worlds and secret outposts, the embers of resistance still smoldered. The universe's hope hung in the balance, poised between a new era of unity and the threat of chaos yet to come. The echoes of celebration faded as the true scope of galactic devastation came into focus. On Kylaris Prime, Colonel Marcus Rain's boots crunched over debris-strewn streets. His face was etched with iron will as he surveyed the ruins of what had once been a thriving metropolis. Delta Company, sweep and clear that sector, Rain ordered, gesturing towards a cluster of bombed-out buildings. Watch for booby traps. These Council loyalists are getting desperate. As his troops advanced, Rain's comm crackled to life. Colonel, we've found something. You need to see this. Minutes later, Rain stood at the entrance of a hidden underground facility. The acrid stench of chemicals assaulted his nostrils as he descended into the depths. His breath caught in his throat as he took in the rows of stasis pods lining the walls. Sir, a lieutenant reported, face pale, preliminary scans indicate these contain biological agents, including samples of the terminus virus. Rain's expression resolute. Secure the site, full hazmat protocols. I want every scrap of data from their systems. As Rain's forces unearthed the Council's darkest secrets on Kylaris, light years away on the ravaged world of Avalon, a different kind of battle was unfolding. Jeremiah Novak stood at the podium, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh glare of holoprojectors. Before him, the inaugural Concord Assembly seethed with tension. Representatives from 100 liberated worlds filled the makeshift chamber, their faces a mix of hope and simmering resentment. We stand at a crossroads, Novak began, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility. The path we choose now will shape the galaxy for generations to come. A burly human delegate from Proxima Centauri cut in, his face flushed with anger. Pretty words, Novak, but what about justice? The Council butchered millions of our people. We demand reparations. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Novak raised a hand for silence. I understand your pain, but we cannot build a lasting peace on a foundation of vengeance. The debate raged for hours. Novak fought for every concession, painfully aware that each compromise risked alienating another faction. As the session adjourned, he caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd. Supreme Commander, Novak greeted, relief evident in his voice. Your timing is impeccable. Novak's eyes betrayed his exhaustion. We're making progress, but it's slow going. Too many want blood instead of reconciliation. Before Novak could continue, alarms blared throughout the complex. A security officer burst into the room, face ashen. Sirs, we have a situation. Earth, there's been an attack. Across the galaxy, on the verdant world of Decora, plasma fire lit up the night sky. Queen Freya stood atop the ramparts of her fortress, battle axe gleaming in the starlight. A ragtag fleet of Council warships hung in low orbit, their weapons trained on the planet below. Your Majesty, a Valkyrie captain reported, they're demanding we surrender the dilithium mines. They claim to have a planet-killer weapon. Freya's eyes narrowed. Then we shall give them a warrior's welcome. She raised her axe high, her voice carrying across the assembled defenders. For Decora! For freedom! As Freya's forces engaged the Council remnants in orbit, Commander Carrie Blackwood's flotilla emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Purgatory system. A maze of asteroids loomed before them, dripping with defense platforms. All ships, attack pattern Sigma, Blackwood ordered. Disable their long-range communications first. We can't let them warn the other enclaves. The battle was swift and brutal. Blackwood's ships darted between the asteroids, their precision strikes crippling the Council's defenses. As boarding parties secured the main facility, Blackwood received a priority transmission from Earth. Her blood ran cold as she absorbed the news. Human supremacists had seized control of key shipyards and research facilities. Reports of violence were flooding in from major cities. Set course for Earth, Blackwood commanded, her voice tight with urgency. Maximum speed. But even as Alliance forces scrambled to respond to the crisis, a sinister plan was set in motion. Deep within the shattered remnants of the Council's power base, shadowy figures gathered. The humans have done our work for us, a hooded figure rasped. Their alliance fractures from within. Now is the time to strike. Across the stars, the drums of war began to beat once more. Valorian Krax watched the chaos unfold from his command ship, a predatory smile playing across his scarred features. The human insurrection had left the Alliance forces scattered and vulnerable. It was time to strike. All units, commence Operation Thunderbolt, he ordered, his voice cold and precise. The Sargon warblades descended upon Decora like a swarm of locusts. Queen Freya's Valkyrie garrison fought valiantly, but they were overwhelmed by the mercenaries' superior numbers and cutting-edge weaponry. Freya stood atop the crumbling walls of her fortress, her battle axe singing as it cleaved through warblade armor. But even her legendary prowess couldn't stem the tide. A stun blast caught her in mid-swing, and she crumpled to the ground. Krax strode through the smoldering ruins, his boots crunching on shattered masonry. He lifted the unconscious queen with one augmented arm, addressing the nearest comms officer. Broadcast on all frequencies. I want every Alliance world to hear this. Light years away, Colonel Rain's fist slammed into his command console as Krax's ultimatum echoed through the bridge of his flagship. Relinquish all captured Council territories and resources. Krax's voice rang out, tinged with smug satisfaction. Or watch your precious Queen Freya die. You have 6 standard hours to comply. Rain's mind raced. They couldn't cave to terrorist demands, but abandoning Freya was unthinkable. He keyed his comm, patching through to Commander Blackwood's armada. Carrie, how fast can you rendezvous at Decora? Blackwood's reply was grim. 3 hours minimum. Those warblades have state-of-the-art jamming tech. We'll be flying in blind. Then we'll just have to improvise, Rain growled. I'm diverting forces from Kylaris now. We hit them hard and fast. The assault on Decora was a maelstrom of plasma fire and explosive ordnance. Rain's troops fought tooth and nail against the entrenched warblades, their close-quarters combat turning the planet's surface into a bloody charnel house. From the bridge of her flagship, Blackwood coordinated the space battle, her ships dancing through a hail of enemy fire. But for every warblade vessel they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. "We're getting slaughtered out here!" Blackwood shouted over the din of klaxons and weapons fire. "Where the hell is our backup?" As if in answer, a massive shape tore out of hyperspace. The Defiance, Novak's personal flagship, unleashed a devastating barrage that shattered the warblade formation. While the battle raged in orbit and on the ground, Jerry Dixon slipped through the shadows of Krax's command bunker. Years of covert ops had honed his skills to a razor's edge. He moved like a ghost, dispatching guards with brutal efficiency. In the heart of the complex, Alara faced off against Valorian Krax himself. Her energy blade crackled and spat as it clashed against Krax's power gauntlets. "You're fighting for a lost cause," Alara said, her voice steady despite the exertion. "The Council is finished. Join us and help forge a new future." Krax's eyes narrowed, considering her words even as they continued their deadly dance. "And what guarantee do I have that we won't be cast aside once our usefulness is done?" "My word," Alara replied, lowering her blade, "and the chance to be on the right side of history." For a moment, the fate of the battle hung in the balance. Then Krax nodded, a wry smile crossing his face. "Well played, Alliance dog. Warblades, stand down. We fight with the Alliance now." The tide of battle shifted dramatically. With the Warblades turning on their former masters, victory seemed all but assured. Dixon emerged from the bunker, supporting a battered but alive Queen Freya. Suddenly, the sky lit up with a blinding flash. A salvo of missiles, invisible to all sensors, streaked down from high orbit. The Defiance, caught completely off guard, vanished in a titanic fireball. Dozens of other ships, both Alliance and former Warblade, were torn apart in seconds. "No!" Blackwood screamed, watching helplessly as the pride of the Alliance fleet was reduced to atoms. "Supreme Commander Novak, he can't be—" The comm channels erupted with panicked chatter. Without Novak's leadership, the fragile Alliance began to fracture. From his emergency command post on Terra Nova, General Gerard Everson's face was ashen as he absorbed the magnitude of the disaster. "All forces, fall back to designated stronghold worlds," Everson ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of command. "Initiate Case Omega protocols. We're going to ground." As Alliance ships began their desperate retreat, carrying as many civilians as they could, the resurgent Council forces pressed their advantage. The war that had seemed on the brink of ending now stretched into an uncertain future, with humanity's survival hanging by a thread. Dixon, clutching a barely conscious Freya, watched as Krax's remaining ships provided cover for their escape. He keyed his emergency beacon, praying someone would answer. "This is Agent Dixon, requesting immediate extraction. Does anyone copy?" Static filled the comm channel. In the skies above, Council warships closed in, blocking all avenues of escape. Static crackled through Dixon's comm, punctuated by the distant rumble of explosions. He gripped Freya tighter, scanning the war-torn horizon for any sign of rescue. None came. "We need to move," Krax growled, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed their surroundings. "Council kill teams will be swarming this area soon." Dixon nodded grimly, hefting the semi-conscious Valkyrie Queen onto his shoulders. They set off at a grueling pace, weaving through the ruins of what had once been Dakra's capital. Across the galaxy, General Gerard Everson stood before a holographic display of Alliance territory, watching in dismay as swaths of it blinked from green to red. The comm channels buzzed with frantic reports of Council, forces pressing their advantage on multiple fronts. "Sir," a haggard lieutenant reported, "we've lost contact with the Avalon colony. Civilian evac is only 30% complete." Everson's face hardened. He knew what had to be done, but the weight of the decision threatened to crush him. Divert all remaining transports to military personnel and critical assets. We can't hold Avalon. But sir, the civilians will die if we lose this war. Everson finished, his voice cold. Enact the order. Light years away, Colonel Rain's battered 501st Division limped across the harsh terrain of Kylaris Prime. They moved only at night, using the planet's dense foliage for cover. During the day, they huddled in hastily dug foxholes, praying the Council's hunter-killer drones wouldn't detect them. How much farther to the rendezvous point? Dr. Amelia Chen whispered, her eyes darting nervously at every rustle in the undergrowth. Rain checked his makeshift nav system, cobbled together from salvaged parts. Another 50 clicks, give or take, assuming it hasn't been overrun. A high-pitched whine filled the air. Down! Rain hissed. The squad flattened themselves against the forest floor as a Council gunship screamed overhead. Its searchlights swept the canopy, probing for any sign of movement. For agonizing minutes, no one dared breathe. Finally, the gunship moved on, its engine fading into the distance. Too close, Rain muttered, brushing leaf litter from his armor. Let's... He froze, eyes widening as he took in the structure before them. Half hidden by vines and overgrowth stood a massive blast door, its surface etched with faded Council insignia. What the hell? Sergeant Vex breathed. Rain approached cautiously, his rifle at the ready. Chen, can you get us in? The scientist nodded, pulling out a battered datapad. Her fingers flew across its surface, bypassing layers of ancient security protocols. With a pneumatic hiss, the door slid open, revealing a cavernous facility stretching into darkness. The air that rushed out carried the sterile scent of a laboratory. My God, Chen gasped as they entered, her voice echoing in the vast space. It's a cloning facility. Row upon row of stasis pods lined the walls, each containing a perfect human replica. Millions of them, blank slates waiting to be imprinted with the Council's twisted ideology. Rain's lips pursed. We can't let them have this. Rig it to blow, now. As his team scrambled to set charges, a familiar voice cut through the shadows. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, old friend. Ilara stepped into view, but she was changed. Cybernetic implants glinted beneath her skin, her eyes glowing an unnatural blue. What have they done to you? Rain whispered, horror and pity warring in his voice. Ilara's lips curled into a cold smile. They've made me better, stronger. Join us, Marcus. There's still time. Never, Rain snarled, raising his rifle. What followed was a blur of gunfire and brutal hand-to-hand combat. Ilara moved with inhuman speed and strength, her augmented body shrugging off wounds that would have felled a normal soldier. Rain's forces fought valiantly, but they were outmatched. One by one, they fell to Ilara's relentless assault. As the last of his squad went down, Rain found himself backed against the facility's main reactor. Blood trickled from a dozen wounds, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Ilara advanced, her cybernetic arm morphing into a vicious blade. It's over, Marcus. Surrender, and I'll make it quick. Rain's hand inched towards the reactor's emergency override. You're right about one thing, he wheezed. It is over. With the last of his strength, he smacked his fist down on the controls. Alarms blared as the reactor began to overload. Ilara's eyes widened in realization. No! She lunged forward, but it was too late. The facility shook as the reactor went critical, consuming everything in a blinding flash of energy. As the dust settled on Kylaris Prime, the Council's plans for a subverted human army lay in ruins. But the cost had been high, and the war was nowhere near the end.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.